the king whatever he wants.
May I perform for you?
So Starz describes the show as inspired by an unbelievable true story. Is there a detail in this show that you were surprised to learn was actually true or only slightly embellished?
For me, something that was intriguing and actually not that surprising once I got to know George was James, not being necessarily the only royal that George bedded. Supposedly, the Queen of France as well was also on George's hit list. Bless the young man. He's very active.
Quite the Fario.
Yeah, a little bit, which, it's funny.
There's a line that comes up a couple of times throughout the show. Bodies are just bodies, and certainly the show does not shy away from sex scenes and exploring queerness. How did you two navigate those scenes, and what was most important for you to convey in those moments?
We had an amazing intimacy coordinator, Robbie Taylor Hunt, who helped with, the sort of choreographical element of it. But I think, Tony and I just love working with each other as actors, and we have a great chemistry, and I think totally bought into who these people were to each other, and we really wanted to convey the wanting nature, the transactional nature, the sort of dominating nature at times,
vulnerable.
There's so many different dynamics to these scenes, and I think for George they very much tell a story about who he is and what he wants, and I think the same could be said for James.
Yeah.
If I were a man, and I looked like you, I'd rule the f***ing planet.
Onto the f***ing planet.
Then it will rule you. Second sons offer nothing, inherit nothing. Raise yourself.
I thought George's sort of motivations for this seduction are interesting because with Mary, it's quite clear she wants power and position. With George, I wondered if he was also sort of motivated by the fact that in the seduction, he could be more free in his sexuality for the first time in his life.
It's hard to say that because remembering George in France became very open, and I'm sure, given our introduction to the French in the show, was very active over there. I think, choosing the king as a sort of a point of sexual exploration, I think would maybe be misguided. I think at first, he sees he's very much on the same page as Mary. I mean, it's Mary's idea, But I think what is undeniable is, and maybe even surprising to George, his love that develops for James. He sees in James a very caring, vulnerable, very interesting, I think, man as well. I think there's a lot that he learns from James about his pacifism and his political savvy. How James is sort of able to toe the line in a lot of ways politically, and so I think it's less to do with sexual exploration as it is. I think it's maybe we've sort of said father figure is maybe not the right term, but certainly like someone
mentor,
a mentor.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. I think it's that kind of relationship too.
There's a vulnerability to James, but also a brokenness that I think brings out a sort of empathy within George towards James, which I think is you can see the humanity in James, but then you can also identify it in George as well, which I think is interesting for the relationship.
Yeah.